Let's break down what the election map would look like if it were decided today. Given the uncertainty surrounding this year's electoral college bias, national polls don't hold as much weight. Most forecasts suggest that Harris would likely need to win the popular vote by at least 2 points to have a solid chance at reaching 270 electoral votes. Currently, her national lead over Trump sits at just 0.6%, substantially below the margin she probably needs to be to win the Electoral College. According to Nate Silver's model, if Harris's popular vote edge falls between D+0 and D+1, her odds of winning the Electoral College drop to around 12%, while they increase to better than 50-50 at D+2 to D+3. All of that being said, the only thing that truly matters is that there are 538 electoral votes up for grabs on the 2024 Electoral College map, with 270 needed to win the presidency. As is always the case with the electoral system, most states have been largely ignored this cycle because their outcomes are already a foregone conclusion. According to the latest forecast from Decision Desk HQ, 7 states are currently classified as toss-ups, meaning they could go either way. 2 additional states are considered lean, where one candidate holds a slight edge, though the race remains close. Meanwhile, the other 42 states, plus the District of Columbia, each hold more than an 80% chance of voting in a certain direction, effectively excluding them from the final calculus for either candidate's strategy to reach 270. It's these 7 toss-ups marked in gold on this map where Harris and Trump have directed almost all their time and resources over the last several months. So, let's adjust the Electoral College map now based on the latest polling data from Decision Desk HQ and The Hill, as if the election were being held today. Starting with our first toss-up state, Nevada, Republicans are in a stronger position to flip the silver state than they've been in over 2 decades. Remember, Trump lost Nevada by 2.4% to Hillary Clinton, and then by the same margin to Joe Biden in 2020. This indicates that the state shifted to the right relative to the nation since Biden won the national popular vote by a larger margin than Clinton. Then more recently, in the 2022 midterm elections, Republican Joe Lombardo flipped the governor's office, while for the first time in decades, Republicans secured more votes for the U.S. House across Nevada's 4 congressional districts. These pro-Republican trends continued into 2024 when Biden was still in the race, with the final DDHQ polling average showing Trump ahead by nearly 6 points. However, since Harris took over the Democratic ticket, she has clawed back at most of those gains, even leading Trump for several weeks in August and September, but now based on a grand total of 46 polls surveyed and released in Nevada since mid-February, Trump leads by 0.7%. This average is of course weighted to account for recency, so these last few polls generally showing Trump in the lead have flipped it into his favor here. Still, you have to give it to Kamala Harris here. It's a pretty remarkable turnaround from what the polls looked like for Democrats 3 short months ago. That being said, the early vote so far is truly abysmal for Democrats in Nevada. Normally at this stage, we'd be assessing the strength of a Democratic firewall and whether Republicans could close the gap on Election Day. Yet with more than half of the estimated total ballots already returned, Republicans lead Democrats by 5 points in early voting, a truly stunning reversal from typical trends in the state. On our updated map, Nevada moves into the tilt Republican category, with Trump now holding a slight edge in this critical battleground. Southeast of Nevada lies Arizona, the second closest contest in the 2020 election. Biden narrowly carried the Grand Canyon state by 0.3%, with a raw vote margin of less than 11,000 votes. When people talk about the 2020 election being won by only thousands of votes, this is one of the states that they mean. Along with Georgia and Wisconsin, Trump came within 45,000 cumulative votes across those 3 states from flipping the Electoral College outcome in his favor. The latest polling average here has Trump leading Harris by almost 2 full percentage points, garnering a 49% vote share here, which is his highest mark since Harris took over in late July. Trump has led 6 of the last 8 surveys published here in Arizona, including several polls showing him ahead by more than 3 points. So, returning to our Electoral College map, Arizona joins Nevada in the tilt Republican category. Moving to the southeast in Georgia, the closest state in the 2020 election. Biden became the first Democrat to carry the Peach State since Bill Clinton, winning by a razor-thin margin of 0.2%, with 49.5% to Trump's 49.3%, and a raw vote margin of only about 12,000 votes. This win was primarily driven by record turnout and support among black voters in and around Atlanta, but the polling crosstabs all cycle long have suggested Trump is up significantly among black voters since 2020. And now looking ahead to 2024, the overall top-line average here has Trump ahead by 1.7%. This average had flipped back and forth over the last few months, but has now consistently tilted ever so slightly in Trump's direction since mid-September. Returning to the map, Georgia also finds itself in the tilt Republican column. We have 4 toss-ups left, so let's head to North Carolina, a reliably Republican-leaning state over the last decade. The Tar Heel state has voted Republican in every federal election since 2008, whether for president or U.S. Senate. However, the last 7 of those races were all decided by less than 6 points, marking North Carolina as a consistently purplish state to watch. Now here, in 2024, North Carolina is the only toss-up state that voted for Trump in 2020, meaning it's Harris's only real pickup opportunity on the electoral map, as she's mostly on defense elsewhere. The latest polling average here has Trump leading by a nearly identical margin as he carried the state with in 2020, 1.4%, based on 64 total polls. The former president is sitting at 48.9% right now over Harris's 47.5%. He has led by around a point or less consistently since late August. Again, going back to the map, we'll place North Carolina in the tilt Republican column for Trump. Alrighty, and now this is where we get to one of the key storylines of this election cycle. Even if Trump sweeps all 4 toss-ups across the Sun Belt region, he'd only hit 268 electoral votes, still too shy of the magic number, 270. That means that if Kamala Harris can hold the Upper Rust Belt trio, colloquially referred to as the WIMPA states, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, she would hit exactly 270 electoral votes. They famously held up as part of the Democratic Blue Wall from 1992 all the way up until 2016 when Trump broke through, flipping all 3 by less than a full percentage point over Hillary Clinton. Had he not managed to win all 3, he would never have been elected president. Likewise, in 2020, Biden flipped all 3 back into the Democratic column. Pennsylvania by a point, Michigan by almost 3 points, and Wisconsin by less than a point. Had Trump held them, he would be serving a second term as we speak. In terms of the polling here in 2024, both Biden and now Harris have consistently appeared stronger in this core Rust Belt trio than in any of the Sun Belt states. For those who've been following this channel throughout the cycle, I've been consistently skeptical of Harris's chances in Wisconsin, even when she was polling ahead by several points. Wisconsin has been the site of 2 of the largest polling misses underestimating Trump's support. In 2016, Clinton led by 6.5 points in the final poll average, only to lose the state by 0.7%. Then, in 2020, Biden led by a similarly large margin, yet held the state by just 0.7%. Wisconsin is also the whitest and most rural state in the core Rust Belt trio, with a demographic profile even more friendly to Republicans than a state like Nebraska. If Trump overperforms among white working-class voters once again, Wisconsin will likely be the front line for that shift. The latest poll average shows Trump has taken the lead for the first time in months here by just over half a percentage point, based on 71 polls. This is a massive swing toward Trump here, as Harris had led previously by as much as 3 to 4 points throughout August and September, and it means that here on our map, it will go in the tilt Republican category, officially lifting Trump above the 270 mark at 278. So, yes, while Harris would still have a path to 270 without a single Sun Belt state, all Trump needs to do in this scenario is carry one of the 3 WIMPA states. Over in Michigan, Harris maintains an ever so narrow lead over Trump here by 0.3% based on 71 polls. Her vote share sits at 48.5% over Trump's 48.2%. The VP has pretty consistently led Trump since taking over as the nominee, which isn't necessarily surprising because Michigan is generally considered the bluest of the core Rust Belt trio, having voted for Biden by 2.8% in 2020 and by the narrowest margin of the three in 2016 at just 0.2%. And Democrats have achieved really strong down-ballot victories across the state since 2016 as well. I think that out of all the toss-ups on the map, Michigan is the closest to a must-win for Harris. I find it extremely difficult to see her eclipsing 270 without carrying the 15 electoral votes here. It does tilt toward Harris here based on the latest numbers. Finally, let's turn to Pennsylvania, which may just be the most crucial state in the 2024 election cycle. It certainly offers the largest prize among the key battlegrounds with 19 electoral votes, and according to Nate Silver's presidential forecast, it remains the most likely tipping point state with a 32% chance of deciding the election. Both Harris and Trump's chances of hitting 270 would skyrocket up to 90% with a win in Pennsylvania. In terms of current polling, Trump took the lead last week and has yet to relinquish it here as he now leads Harris by 0.8% based on 95 polls. More polls have been surveyed and released here in the Keystone State than any other, again highlighting its importance. And on the Electoral College map, Pennsylvania will be placed in the tilt Republican category. So, if the election were held today and the latest polling averages prove to be 100% accurate, then Trump would win the Electoral College with 297 electoral votes, ahead of Harris's 241. Obviously, we can't expect the polls to be exact. In fact, it's probable that we see them miss by a few points in one direction or another. Thus, the primary takeaway from the latest numbers is that the race remains extraordinarily close, and you shouldn't be surprised if either Trump or Harris ends up with 300 electoral votes or anything in between. As always, feel free to let me know in the comments what you think of this map and suggest any other videos or topics you'd like to see in the future. That does it for today's video though. Shout out to my channel members in the description below. Make sure to subscribe to my channel down below, and please leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. You can check out more content from my channel here, and as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. EP out.